So you're looking to buy an Apple Watch, huh? Maybe it's your very first Apple Watch, or maybe you currently feel like the Apple Watch you're wearing just needs a little bit of an upgrade. You currently have three options when it comes to purchasing the Apple Watch. You have the Apple Watch SE, the Series 10, and the Apple Watch Ultra 2. And you may be saying to yourself, which one should I get? There are a lot of factors when it goes into which watch is the best one for you and your use case. And by the end of this video, I hope I can answer that question for you so that when you make your purchase of the Apple Watch, you know you've made the right choice. So if you're ready, I'm ready. Let's get into it. So let's first talk about pricing when it comes to these three different models. You have the Apple Watch SE, which starts at $249 with the non-cellular version. You have the Series 10, which starts at $399 for the non-cellular version. And you have the Ultra 2, which starts at $799, and it's a cellular only option. Now, in my opinion, and we'll talk a little bit more about why in a second, but I think the LTE cellular option on these watches is absolutely the one that you should purchase regardless of which watch you choose. And I'll give you lots of reasons why I think that. But for the sake of this video, we are then going to compare the prices of cellular options on these because the Ultra 2 always has cellular. You can't choose a Wi-Fi only version, but you can decide on the Series 10 and the SE if you want LTE as an option. If you do choose LTE as an option, you're looking at $299 for the SE and $499 for the Series 10. Regardless of which model you choose, if we are talking about just the LTE side and why I think the cellular is so important, I'll tell you why I think it's something that's really worth having. Number one, it allows you to actually use the watch without your phone. Now you may say, well, I always have my phone with me, that's not a big deal. And that may be the case, but I can guarantee you that there have been times that you might actually walk away from your phone. Maybe you forget that your phone is actually at your house and you get in your car and you leave, and then you're suddenly realizing, oh, I don't have my phone with me. Well, if you have the Apple Watch cellular version, you still have connectivity. And if someone needs to call you or someone needs to text you, you still can do that. I've actually used my watch, only my watch, to call my wife to ask her to bring my phone where I'm actually going. And that's only possible if you have an LTE version. Some people will actually say, I actually like the LTE version because I can kind of maybe use my phone less and I can use my watch for my everyday wearability and actually eliminate some screen time because your watch gives you the connectivity when you need it with people, but you're not necessarily going to be addicted to your watch. You're not going to nonstop be playing with your watch like you would with your phone. So maybe that's the thing that might be important to you. Now, a more likely scenario is that you are actually really into fitness, whether it's running or walking or doing some sort of fitness activity. We all know it's kind of annoying to have your phone with you when you're doing those things. And when you have the Apple Watch and AirPods, for example, you can use the AirPods, connect them directly to the Apple Watch and be able to do all your fitness tracking, all your phone calls, text messages, connectivity with whoever you need to get in touch with just a watch and AirPods. And I know that when I run, I hate running with a phone. It drives me crazy and I don't really need my phone. I just usually had it with me because it needed to be the connection for my watch or for music. But when you have the LTE version, you can use things like Spotify and Apple Music and streaming music directly from your watch's connectivity directly to your AirPods. And that is a huge thing for someone into fitness. Yes, you can run with your Apple Watch without LTE connection, but you'd have to download songs and music and stuff to your device itself, which obviously doesn't have a big capacity, and it just isn't as ideal if you want to talk to Siri or you want to send someone a text message, whatever it is. You can't do that until you're reconnected to your phone. So I think personally you should choose the LTE option because you can always turn it off if you decide not to use it anymore, but you can never add cellular to an option that wasn't already designed to have it, if that makes sense. So in my opinion, just go with LTE. So now that we've gotten the LTE discussion out of the way, let's help you decide what's the best Apple Watch for you. I think the most important thing you can do when deciding which Apple Watch is best for you is to ask yourself a couple of main questions that really will help you dial in that answer very quickly. The first question is, what's the main reason that you want to get an Apple Watch? Now, this obviously goes for someone that does not have a smartwatch yet. So maybe this is your first one and you're thinking, maybe it would just be nice to have an Apple Watch because I could see text messages and phone calls and I could obviously just see the time and it'd be nice to just have those features available. That's kind of basic and going to cover you in all aspects of these watches because they all do that very, very well. And that's kind of just pretty common in any smartwatch. Maybe you're a person that's potentially just looking to use your phone less, but you don't want to have the excuse of, well, I have to have my phone with me because if something happens, if there's an emergency, I need people to get in touch with me. Well, a watch solves that very easily with LTE because, well, you can't really do too much other things on your watch, like scroll through Instagram or YouTube or TikTok, whatever, but you can get important notifications. So to you, the answer may just be that you want a watch that has LTE functionality, but you don't necessarily care for any feature that's better than one or the other, depending on the SE or the Ultra or anything in between. Maybe you're a parent of a younger kid that wants to be able to get in touch with their kid and see where their kid's at just for safety reasons, but you don't really want to get them a phone yet, which I totally can relate to. An Apple Watch is a great thing for that because you really can't get yourself in too much trouble, let's just say, with an Apple Watch, because other than text messages and all that, you're not going to have unlimited access to the internet or social media apps or anything. So that's a nice starting point. You still can have them connect with you and text you and call you, see locations and all that, and also keep track of fitness if they are walking and you want them to keep a certain amount of steps in a day, whatever it is. There are lots of reasons why it makes a lot of sense for a young kid, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to choose the highest end one for a kid as well. So answering that one question, what's the main purpose of having this Apple Watch, really is a major point in deciding which one's best for you. Because you see, if you say, I just want to watch for my younger kid, well, the Apple Watch SE is a fantastic option. It's the most affordable option. It has LTE, it has all those basic features, and it's not going to cost too much. This is a great option. You're probably not going to buy your kid an Apple Watch Ultra for the first one. But if you're someone on the other side of the spectrum that says, I want this to be my fitness companion, I want to be able to run marathons, and I want to do a lot of other fitness stuff and have the best battery life possible, well, then the Ultra is the clear winner because you can't do some of those things with this watch. So we'll get into that more when I talk about each specific watch and what makes the most sense. But ask yourself that question first. Once you can answer that question for yourself, it'll help you go to the next phase, which is which watch is actually right for you when it comes down to the features. So let's first talk about the most affordable Apple Watch that you can buy, the Apple Watch SE. And this is kind of what I think is really catered as potentially your first Apple Watch or potentially the watch that you would buy for a kid. The reason I say this might be best to be your first Apple Watch is if you've never had a smartwatch before, you may be thinking, I just want to see if I'll even use it a lot. And I want to see if it actually helps me be able to be on my phone less, or is it helpful to get notifications, or is it actually going to be worse because I'm going to get notifications nonstop. The SE is a really great option because it's not terribly expensive at just about $300 US. And yet it still has a lot of the same features that these other watches have. And really all you're sacrificing is maybe a little bit of battery life, maybe a little bit smaller screen, not necessarily as high end of the material, like potentially the titanium or the sapphire or all the different stuff that these have on the higher end models, but it still does the same thing. This responds to text messages just as good as the Ultra 2. This does phone calls just as good as the Ultra 2. This does all your basic fitness tracking like steps and paces for running. It does all that stuff just as good as these do to a point. And if you've never had an Apple Watch before, this is going to be a fantastic starting point for you. This is definitely the watch that I would recommend for kids, because if you know anything about kids, which if you're a parent, you probably do, they don't always take care of things very well, and there'd be nothing worse than spending $800 on a watch and having them destroy it or not care for it. Now, I'm not trying to say that $300 is not expensive and that's still a big commitment that you have to decide on. But at least this is going to be a more affordable baseline. It's not going to have all the bells and whistles of the other watches, but it's going to do primarily what you really want it to do. Very similar to these, which is be able to track your kid where they're at. They can text you, they can call, they can do all the basic things without any problem. They can still track workouts if they're into fitness. They can still do all the main things at a more affordable price point. Now, one thing to keep in mind with the SE, the largest size you can get is actually 44 millimeters. So if you are an adult that is looking for this to be your first watch, you might find this a little bit too small, not just on your wrist and maybe the way it looks, but the font size is going to be a lot smaller, or you're going to be taking up a lot of real estate with trying to make the font bigger. And if you don't have great vision, especially close-up vision potentially, it may be hard to see. I find this to be way too small for my wrist. I feel like it just almost looks like a bracelet versus a watch. So I personally don't like this size at all, but that is one thing to keep in mind. Fantastic size for kids because their wrists are not going to be as bigger. But if you're an adult, you might enjoy the 46 millimeter that comes on the Series 10 a little bit more because it's kind of a bit more of the size watch that you'd be looking for. Now, one thing I will mention is that if you are looking to buy the Apple Watch specifically for a kid, especially a younger kid, you might be saying to yourself, the Apple Watch isn't necessarily what I want to buy them because I don't want them to be able to text message people or call other people, and I just want to be able to do more of the tracking and the everyday fun stuff. There are a couple different options that you might want to consider. Perhaps what we have right here, which is the Google Fitbit Ace, I believe this is called. This is a really nice option, very affordable and cheap, but really they only can contact parents and the parents can contact them. So they can text message us, we can text message them, they can call us, we can call them, but they really can't do anything else with the phone. They don't have their own phone number that people can text. So that is something to consider. There are some other options, right? Now, the Apple Watch is a much better device than those devices. It's also much more well-built, but also that's a much more affordable watch, and the LTE plan is half the price of the Apple Watch, so it is worth considering. And lastly, one other use case that I think is worth considering is potentially if you're looking to buy this for an elderly parent. These are really nice because they still have some of the nice features built in, like obviously being able to get in touch with the people that are wearing these, but they also have like fall detection, which could be literally a lifesaver for someone. If you have an elderly parent that falls and they're not able to get to their phone, this can detect that. It can also call 911 for them. They also can find their phone. If for some reason they have an iPhone and they lose their phone, this can find that. There are a lot of reasons that this would be great because obviously, if you have an elderly parent, they're not necessarily going to need all the bells and whistles of any Apple Watch. They may not want one at all, but it's very easy to say, hey, this is a helpful little device. Then you can find us if you need to, or you need to, have the fall detection, whatever. Great option for that because they don't need anything other than this. This is a really nice option for that. So the SE is a great option for a lot of people, but not really for everybody. I think the watch that most people naturally will look to and will be a great option for them is actually going to be the brand new Apple Watch Series 10. So this right here is the brand new Apple Watch Series 10. This is the newest watch from Apple. It's actually the thinnest watch they've ever made. And honestly, the watch that I think most people should buy because it has nearly every feature you'd be looking for. There are only a few key features that the Ultra has, which we will talk about next. But other than that, this watch sits in a perfect spot for most people and has a little bit of everything. So the Series 10 is actually a 46 millimeter watch at its largest size, but even though it's 46 millimeters, it actually has like the biggest viewing size of any watch, even bigger than the 49 millimeter Apple Watch Ultra, simply because of the bezels and the way it's designed. There's nothing really around it, as you can see, compared to like the Ultra. So it actually feels like a very big viewable watch, but it doesn't feel large at all on your wrist, if that makes sense. Now, if you're someone that wears this watch to sleep and wears this watch every day, everywhere you go, which is usually what most people use with their watch, this is a great watch for that because especially when you're talking about sleeping, this is incredibly comfortable. You don't even feel this thing. And depending which band you pair with it, it is by far the slickest feeling watch that you'll ever actually wear, which is awesome for most people. The Series 10 also has an 18-hour battery life, which is actually the same as the SE. The difference is the Apple Watch Series 10 can actually do rapid charging, which makes a big deal. You can get 0 to 80% charge in just 30 minutes, which is huge when we're talking about the LTE side of things, especially if you're using this without a phone and you're constantly out and about or you work out a lot. That rapid charge is huge because even if you do a long run and your battery suddenly is at 20%, you have a short little car ride home of 15-20 minutes from wherever you're running, or maybe you're just in the car for any amount of time. That quick rapid recharge is a big deal because you can get this back up and charged very quickly. So even though they have the same amount of battery life, this one can recharge itself significantly faster than this, which to some people may be a big deal. Most likely with this watch, and the SE, you're going to be charging these every day. I tend to charge mine really just when I take a shower, which is plenty enough time to get a charge back to what I need. And I wear it all day and I sleep with it and everything. From a sensor perspective, this has kind of all the same sensors that the Apple Watch Ultra 2 has, except for a few, but it's still going to have all your standard sleep apnea notifications, your sleep tracking, your ovulation tracking, the wrist temperature tracking. It's got the water temperature tracking when you're in water. It kind of has all the same bells and whistles for the most part that the Ultra watch does as well. So you're really not missing out on any of those things when it comes to the difference between this and the Ultra, but you're gaining a lot more than the SE has, while still also having an even smaller feeling device with a larger screen. So some of the main differences between the lower priced SE and the Series 10 would be some things that might not be super important to you. One of them is going to be battery life with faster charging, like I mentioned. You're also going to have a brighter screen, almost 2 times as bright of a screen on the Series 10 as the SE. On the Series 10, you also are going to have an always-on display. So if you've never had an Apple Watch before, what that means is that the standard version like this that does not have an always-on display, you will flip your wrist up and that's what will turn it on and show you what's on the watch. So even the time will not be displayed when it's just sitting on your wrist, not pointing toward you. Where the Series 10 and the Ultra have what's called an always-on display, meaning even when it's just sitting on your wrist here, you will be able to see the time, you'll be able to see what's happening on your watch, and then you simply can lift it up to see more notifications or dive into it more, but it will always be on and visible. This is only on when you turn it toward you, which is why this is able to get quoted same battery life as the Series 10, but yet it's a smaller battery inside here and a smaller size because it's not always on, which obviously has to take battery. So all the Apple Watches can ping your phone and make it make a noise, but this will actually direct you toward where it is. So you can see it'll point arrows and different stuff to where that phone actually is for you to find. Not that that's gonna be the reason you buy this, but it is a nice little feature because they have that chip that allows you to do that, which is pretty nice. So in general, I think that the Series 10 is probably the watch that most people are going to choose when you factor in the price, plus the size, plus the actual screen real estate. It's really a perfect watch for most people and probably what most people will go with. And if you don't choose the Series 10, you only have one other option, and that is my watch of choice, the Apple Watch Ultra 2. The Apple Watch Ultra 2 is my watch of choice, and I think it's just a fantastic smartwatch, fitness watch, all-around watch that realistically is just my most favorite watch that I've ever owned. There are a lot of features built into this device that make this thing honestly a fantastic choice for anybody, but I will talk about the 3 reasons why I think that the Ultra is the best watch that you can buy, but not necessarily for everyone. Number 1, and this is the most important to me, is battery life. The Apple Watch Ultra has the best battery life of any Apple Watch available, and depending on what you use your watch for, specifically if you use it for fitness and a lot of the LTE only based stuff like running and using your AirPods connected to it and not bringing your phone with you, that battery life can be extremely clutch. I'm a person that wears my watch every day, everywhere that I go, and I also sleep with my watch. So it is on me 23.5 hours a day, and that half an hour a day is usually if I hop in the shower and I'm doing something for a short amount of time, and that's really all I need to charge this back up. You can charge this from 0 to 80% in just about an hour, but because the battery life is about 36 hours, you're really only having to charge it every 2 days. And if you throw it on the charger for just about 30 minutes per day when you shower or when you have a quick break and you don't really need it on your wrist, it will have plenty of battery life to last all the time. That battery life becomes extremely important when you're talking about fitness, because if you are a marathon runner, for example, and you're running a 3-hour, a 4-hour, or 5-hour marathon, and you're using the LTE the entire time and the dual GPS tracking the entire time, your battery life will go down much faster than you're used to. And this is one of the only Apple Watches that you can actually trust that is going to last you long enough for even a potential Ironman or something that's really a long journey without your phone. If you look at the Apple Watch Ultra site on apple.com, you will see that this is really catered to the extreme athlete, the divers, the marathoners, the triathlon people that really want a fitness watch that can last battery life through all those different types of things. But I personally don't even care about some of those as much as the fact that the battery life is great. And also, I think it's the best looking Apple Watch that they make. I think it just is such a nicely designed, nice looking device. And especially if you pair it with a really nice watch band, this dresses up better than any other Apple Watch, in my opinion. Now, maybe you don't care about that, but as someone who owns a couple of businesses and likes to have meetings with clients and potentially go out to some nice places here and there, I don't always like the way a typical Apple Watch with a sport band looks. And even if you put a nicer watch band on this, it still kind of looks a little bit cheap and a little bit more like just your standard watch, where I really think that just the design of how they did all this and the dials and just the way stuff looks, it just looks very clean and high-end in my opinion. I really like the way it looks on your wrist. Now, it does take some time to get used to the fact that this is a 49mm watch. It is extremely big at first to get used to having on your wrist. I will say that once you have it on your wrist and you wear it for a long time, you'll quickly wonder how you ever survived with one smaller, because now if I put on something like this that is only 40, it feels like a watch for ants, and I feel like I can't even see the actual screen. But like anything, you just get used to it. Same thing with your phone. You have a big phone and suddenly you have a small phone and you feel like you can't even see it. So the Apple Watch Ultra sits at $799. The Series 10 sits at $499. Is it worth the $300 price difference for some more battery life and a stylistic change? That's really going to be up to you. I would say that if you're someone that plans on using your Apple Watch a ton and you're even leaning more toward fitness than not, I think this is a really, really good option. But I also know that my wife would never wear this specific watch at this specific size. She just thinks it's too big and she doesn't love kind of that rugged look. I really like it. So I'm not saying this is a watch at all that is for guys and not girls, but there are more girls that I think probably like just the look of this because it doesn't feel as kind of rugged as the other ones. But it doesn't mean that you can't have this, obviously, if you're female as well. This is a great athlete-based watch. So overall, you're looking at 3 great watches from Apple, and honestly, they're all fantastic devices, and it's incredible to see just what all the companies are doing to continue to make great wearables. I'm someone who absolutely loves my Apple Watch. I can't imagine not having it for so many reasons. I've been super, super happy with my Apple Watch Ultra 2, but I know a ton of people that also have the 10 and the 9 and the 8, and once you have an Apple Watch, it's kind of hard to imagine what it was like without one, and I think that you'd be happy with any of them. Just really comes down to what your use case is. Hopefully this video was somewhat helpful to you and you now can make a wise decision on which watch makes the most sense for you. I think in summary, if you are an athlete that is looking for the best battery life, the best GPS, the best tracking, and being able to just put up with your rugged, crazy, fitness-based lifestyle, the Apple Watch Ultra 2 is a no-brainer. But if you're someone that's just like, hey, I want the basics and I don't need to spend a fortune and I just think that this is gonna be fine as well for me, you're gonna be happy with this. The SE is a great device. Apple makes fantastic watches, fantastic devices, and no matter which one you buy, I think you'd be pretty pleased with. So thanks for watching. Comment below, tell me which one you're planning on buying, or tell me which one you have that you're planning on upgrading, or let me know which one this helped you decide on, because I always love knowing what people are wearing and what they love about their Apple Watch. So thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe if you're new around here, and I'll see you guys again real soon.